Maybe we'll start by talking about the Papua LNG project, which is the largest gas project that we have underway in Papua New Guinea right now. And Kumul Petroleum, of course, is the state's nominee for that project. You have a 22.5% taker in that project. So how are we progressing with Papua LNG? I noticed, for example, there was some legislation, enabling legislation, passed in Parliament this month.
Yeah, that's correct. The Parliament passed the enabling legislations in August sitting, and that's the end of the legislative arrangements, the fiscal stability agreement, the gas agreement. So everything is basically now locked in, and the ball is in the developers' court now at the moment. And on the state side, I think they have basically cleared the path for development to happen. So the developers are now remobilizing back into the country. It's slow because of COVID restrictions and all that, but they are demobilizing back into the country. And pre-FEED work has been going on, and it's going on at the moment. And commercial negotiations are also starting. Especially for the facility use, because the 2 trains for Papua will be built alongside the PNG LNG project site, existing site. So that's also ongoing. And FEED entry is likely to be, second half, third quarter next year, when all those pre-FEED work and commercial arrangements have been bedded down.
So as far as final investment decision, therefore, that would be 2023?
It will be 2023, at least 12 months after the FEED entry. Key requirement for that will be financing, so that's also starting as well. So when financing is in place, FEED's been done, then we are ready for FID, which is likely to be 2023. So another 4 years of construction. So 2027, end of 27 or early 28 will be first gas.
That's very exciting. One of the aspects of this project, as far as your organization is concerned, is that you're not a passive bystander in this project. You're actively involved in the project, particularly in marketing the gas from it. Can you talk a little bit about how you're going as far as tooling up for that process, and what process of marketing is actually going to take place and is already taking place?
Yeah, so this time, unlike the PNG LNG project, where Kumul was not represented at that time, Croton, which was only a self-company under IPBC, was the nominee back then, and there was not a lot of active involvement by the company. But with the existence of Kumul Petroleum and the legislation that allows Kumul to participate early and be active early, have access to technical commercial data early, and that enables us to be active participant early on before FID, which is by law when we should actually join as a joint venture partner. But we are actively involved now ahead of that, basically because we are enabled by the Enabling Act of Kumul Petroleum. Also, we are bringing in experience from the PNG LNG project into Papua. So we are now heavily involved with Total through a joint marketing company based out of Singapore now, marketing our share of the LNG. So we are basically heavily involved in early discussions with potential buyers for Papua project. So it's a little bit different to PNG LNG project as far as Kumul is concerned. We are more and more active. We will be able to finance the project, our share of the project ourselves as well. So we don't have to go back to Treasury or government in terms of project financing.
Wapu, I understand you've been heavily involved with the state negotiating team for these projects. And we also have currently underway at the moment the negotiations with ExxonMobil over the Pyongyang prospect. And recently we've also had negotiations which are not quite resolved with the Twinza oil project, Pascaret, which is an offshore gas field. I know you won't want to reveal too much about what the state negotiation team is up to, because these negotiations are ongoing. But can you talk generally about what you're hoping to achieve from the negotiations, not just for these projects, but in an ongoing way to make sure that the nation benefits most from these gas projects?
Yeah, so firstly on the PASCA side, we've concluded the negotiations, and we were working through the gas agreement, which the proposed gas agreement was completed by Twinza and given to state, which the state then revised it. And we were meant to do page turn and lock ourselves in and go through the gas agreement to finalize the agreement. But unfortunately, there's been media negotiations, if you like, that's been going on how the gas agreement should be handled. So it's sort of hit a bit of a hump. So it's still waiting for both sides to get together and do that purge turn and finalize the gas agreement. So it's at the end, if you like, for this stage, which is the gas agreement signing stage. Of course, it will go through financing and FEED and FID and all the different steps yet to go before a development actually happens. So that's ongoing. Pyongyang, we were in negotiations in 2019 and early 2020. The negotiations fell apart, and we have regrouped again to renegotiate with Exxon. So that has just started a month or so ago. So it's all fresh negotiations. The development concept has also changed. So we're working through the new development concept that has been proposed to the state, and working through the economic model and before we engage proper in the negotiations for Pyongyang project. But that project is targeted to start construction at the end of the Papua construction. So there's a continuous construction activity in the country happening. So it's designed to sort of come in at the back of Papua construction activities.
I guess the major challenge, and I guess you may feel emboldened to push for better terms and conditions on some of these agreements now. We have planned reforms with a new Oil and Gas Act planned. And I guess that whole intent is to put Kumul Petroleum very much in the driving seat for future gas projects. Can you talk me a little bit about how the process of getting these reforms through is going, and what the end picture will be like once the reforms are in place?
So the organic law on the oil and gas and minerals was proposed. It was on the agenda in this year, but that has been withdrawn, and we are revising the organic law based on some of the lessons learned from Pokhara negotiations and some of the lessons learned on the oil projects side, to better refine that organic law. So it's still a work in progress. It hasn't gone to, it will go to Parliament possibly after 2022 elections for the new government to consider. So in the meantime, that is, if you like, off for this this government. So it will be picked up in post-2022 government period. As far as
a little bit of a delay.
There's a little bit of a delay, and as far as the act or intent of the organic law was concerned, it's to put Kumul Petroleum and Kumul Minerals in the box seat. Basically, is to get those licenses that are with the Department of Mining and Department of Petroleum into those two commercial entities, so that we can do commercial deals as far as inviting investors into the country is concerned, as far as farming down or farming out, or proposing for development, negotiating for development of those assets is concerned. So there is, at the moment we having some issues like Wafi Gopu is forever delayed now, Pinyang as well. So some of the delay in the project is to do with the government sort of. The whole makeup of the S&T is by way of getting government officials into something more commercially driven negotiations. So, there's a lot of learning to do. So most of them have a learning curve that all the S&T members have to go through, and then the negotiations start. So some of these changes, in the act, removes all of that, so that we realize the commercialization as soon as investors are interested and they see that it will work economically for everyone involved, then we go straight into development. So it removes that long process.
How detailed will the organic law be when it's finally enacted? For example, will it contain details about production sharing, which is one of the items that has been discussed as needing to come in?
Yeah, well, the organic law is about production sharing, so it will sort of at a high level design what the structure should look like and how the act should operate. But the details are in the follow-up act when it comes to the Kumul Petroleum Act that should be amended to align with that organic law, and then the Oil and Gas Act to align with that, and then the Petroleum Resources Authority Act, which also is a consequence of the organic law going through. So there are consequential amendments and acts that will be coming into place as soon as the organic law is passed. So the details will be in those different pieces of act that follows through.
Wapu, the last 18 months have been a bit of a roller coaster ride, not just for Papua New Guinea's economy, but for the oil and gas sector as well. You've had quite significant changes in price to deal with. And then, of course, as you referred to earlier, the difficulties of getting workers in and out of the country to actually do work because of the COVID-19 restrictions. One of the other aspects that seems to be the case at the moment is the challenge of getting finance during such times. Have you taken any advice, or what's your appraisal of the situation as far as getting project finance for projects like the ones that are going on in PNG? Is it likely to be harder? Are they likely to be on different terms?
Yeah, so just like everything else, project financing is likely to be harder, a bit more scarce, because most of the big economies have also been affected. So they support the banking and financing system. So it's going to be harder to finance. If we do finance it, it might be expensive to finance these projects, but we're working through all of that. So that's why we're starting early, so we find the right solution for the project financing that we find. As far as prices are concerned, it's been very low last year as a result of the COVID-19 coming pandemic, and slowly has recovered to always now at $70+ per barrel now. LNG prices have also recovered to where it used to be. So Things have improved, but we expect that for long term it will drop back down again and sort of stay around 50 to $65 per barrel range for a long term. So that's what we are sort of basing our financing and project models around, based on those prices.
Wapu, the last time we talked, you mentioned Kumul Petroleum's own projects to take gas to remoter areas of Papua New Guinea in the form of LPG. How is that project going, and are there other projects that are similar that you're undertaking at the moment?
Yeah, so one of the projects that we are really undertaking at the moment is to look at a LNG distribution hub out of Leh. We call it the FRSUP project. So the P at the back is basically to produce power if we have to, depending on what the customers say. But what we're trying to do is to buy LNG from the open market and bring it into Leh and support either the Wafi-Golpu or PNG Power or industrial growth in Leh, and also want to support Newcrest. So we're targeting Newcrest as well to supply LNG over there, and they can switch from heavy diesel oil fuel to LNG. And we're also proposing to Wafi-Golpu to supply gas, or if they want electrons, we can produce power on the LNG tanker or onshore in Leh and supply electricity up to the mine. So we're looking at different options. So that's one of the things that we are working on, is to distribute LNG to support those big projects that are sort of, one is existing and the other one is being proposed and going through a development phase now.
I guess the big challenge there is to make use of the fuel while you have it, but the distribution is the big challenge there, the logistics of getting it out there. So how advanced is the project at the moment?
Well, we have completed our concept design phase now. So we have got some interesting commercial proposals from those design competitions that we ran. So we're looking at that, but really it's dependent on what Newcrest wants and what Wafi-Golpu wants. So our timing will be dependent on when the government can actually agree to develop issue the SML to Wafi-Golpu people. Newcrest is already existing mine, so it's just a matter of talking the commercial negotiations with them. But Wafi-Golpu is the one that drives the schedule of this. So we're waiting to see what happens to that project. As soon as it crystallizes, meaning that SML is granted, then we will talk to them and propose to them on what we can do. So that's why we've done the studies, so that we understand what we can actually offer, knowing the cost of actually delivering it, cost of building it, the LNG tanker or storage facility, all of those. So we got the numbers now at the right places, meaning that we are ready to talk real numbers and real commercial terms with those two mines.
You already have some experience as a power producer, of course. You're involved in the New Power project, is that correct?
Yes, so we have the New Power project. It's been running for more than a year now, so maybe 2 years. So we do have experience in building gas-fired power stations. So we could build power stations in Leh, if that's what they want. Otherwise, our primary objective is to supply gas using LNG tankers and storage.
Wapu, I wanted to talk a little bit about Papua New Guinea's capacity as far as the oil and gas sector is concerned. Having the PNG LNG project in country has provided enormous benefits as far as producing skilled workers and better capacity to service such projects for the future. What sort of things, I know, for example, Kumul Petroleum already has its academy that you use to actually train workers. What do you think is PNG still lacking in this area, or what else does PNG need to become fully or more self-sufficient as far as providing services to the oil and gas projects that it has?
So that is a interesting area we're also working on. It's another project that we're working on as well. Apart from the oil and gas specific technician training that we are providing at the Kumul Petroleum Academy, we realized that we are talking national content, but we don't have a meaningful national content plan, and there is no mechanism to actually enforce it if we did have a plan. So what we are doing is to develop a training academy that trains construction, general construction, and oil and gas specific construction skills. So we try to expand from the academy that we have and make it a bigger academy. So we're working on that outside of the LNG plant at Kosan Bay. That is also linked to a fabrication facility that we are trying to build, and we're working on the design of it. So what that does is that instead of bringing the fully packaged pieces for the construction of the big projects in the country, what we can do is we can bring all the different components into the country, and we want to do all the structural fabrication, we want to do the mechanical fabrication, we want to do electrical. So all the different pieces can be put together here. We're putting together a fabrication facility. That fabrication facility combined with the training facility that we are putting together, so that we can train the skills that will work in that fabrication facility. So when all the mining projects and the petroleum projects are being constructed, we bring basically finished products and we piece them together at the construction site. So what we're trying to avoid is that job of putting together all the different big components in Singapore, in Korea, in China, in Batam, in Indonesia, and we want to bring it here. So we want that fabrication facility to operate before Pyongyang, Papua, all those constructions start. So we are talking to Exxon and Total now that we have completed the design work. So we're trying to do structural fabrication, electrical fabrication, mechanical fabrication. All the different pieces will be put together here. So we need to train those people as well. So we're looking at something like 10 to 15,000 jobs to create. So in this facility, and those skills can be exported to Australia and different parts of our region. And this will be the second facility in our region. There's one in Perth, and this will be the second one. So there's nothing of this sort in the east coast of Australia. So we're looking at exporting the skilled people, not only here, but outside and other parts of our region. So that's why we're building this facility to create jobs as well as skill them to export them. So in New Zealand and Asia Pacific region and parts of Australia, there is no facility like this. We have the electricity just next door, which is cheaper. And we do have a lot of young people in the country that need skilling and get skill jobs. So we are trying to sort of do all these things ahead of the construction proper starting in Papua and Pyongyang and of course Wafigopu and all the other mines as well. So this is not just oil and gas type training. It will be for broad construction activities in the country. So we are building this academy that will sort of flow on into the fabrication facility that we are building as well. So that's one of those projects that we are doing. It's not our core business, but we see the need for it, and we think that this is something that the National Oil Company can again start off and create that avenue for the more meaningful and the high impact national content that we have been talking about to be actually realized.
Sounds like a very exciting project, Wapu, and one that, as you say, will generate thousands of potential jobs, which is just what PNG needs. looking at as far as capitalisation of Kumul Petroleum moving forward, you've just made a payment to the government, which is the dividend to the government, and the government has decided that it's going to launch the Sovereign Wealth Fund partly on the back of that payment, which is the one thing we've been waiting to see for a number of years now. Are we now decided about how much money Kumul Petroleum is going to pay each year to the government as far as a percentage of your revenue? And does that mean you've now got more certainty about what revenue is available to you to spend on capital expenditure?
Yeah, so how it works is that, government reviews our plan and they approve our plan. And within that plan, they can also decide, what should be the dividend payment, what should be, social obligation projects, and, sort of make high-level decision on how we should spend the money in a broader terms. But the Act, Kumul Petroleum Act, also provides for preserving some of the capital for projects that are in the next 5-year window. So we have mechanisms that are built into the Act to reserve some of the funds so that we don't have to run back to government when a big project comes around. So we reserve money to do that. As far as the Sovereign Wealth Fund is concerned, it's really up to the government to decide how much should go to the Sovereign Wealth Fund. As long as we pay dividend to them, they can decide on how much of that dividend should go into Sovereign Wealth Fund. But at the moment, although there is a policy in place since 2019 on how much we should allocate to Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Sovereign Wealth Fund itself hasn't been functional, so it needs to operate and it should be functioning, and then they can receive money from not only us but Octeri and hopefully Pogara when it starts operation, and all the other SOEs. So there's money parked aside for when we go through sort of the boom and bust cycles in the economy.
Well, certainly the resources sector is always about boom and bust, isn't it? And PNG has been until quite recently. But you'd have to say, Wapu, wouldn't you, that with PNG LNG ramping up, still producing more than boilerplate capacity, and with Papua LNG on its way, subject, of course, to a final investment decision, the PNG's oil and gas sector is looking pretty strong right now, certainly for the next decade or more.
Yeah, it's looking much stronger. We are paying down the debt every year. We are depreciating the asset that we built in PNG LNG projects. So hopefully future projects will take advantage of that position, that skilled people, the experience in every aspect of big, large-scale oil and gas projects. So future projects will be basically much better in terms of the economics. So we're looking to take advantage of the investment that went into the PNG LNG project and get more value for the country in the oil and gas space. So that's the target for S&T. That's a target for government. That's a target for Kumul Petroleum as well. So that's basically what we are all sort of working towards.
Excellent. Wapu, that was all my questions. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you think is important to mention?
It's really important to understand a little bit more of the intent of the organic law, and we need to get the support of all the parliamentarians and the country to push those legislative amendments and the organic law through, so we take control of the industry. There's always that pushback and a view expressed through the chamber that it will affect future projects. It will attract exploration. It will attract. It will impact those activities in the oil and gas space. But I think we will get around that as people sort of feel comfortable about the new fiscal regime, because it's not new. It's been done in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in so many different countries. Almost 95% of oil and gas production is through this similar type of regime. So it's not a new thing. It's a trial and tested fiscal regime that's being introduced. So I think people should feel comfortable. I think I just wanted to sort of re-emphasize that because it's not a new regime that's been pushed.